Hello and welcome to Mad Owl Goes Racing, where today hopefully you'll be able to hear me say several things about Automobilist 2's latest update to 1.0.5.5, and the reason I say that is because I've already done this bloody video once and my recording software decided to record bugger all, so that was really unhelpful. Now my computer decided to default to using Oculus virtual audio device as the bloody microphone, which was extremely annoying. Right, let's start off with the change log, and this is from version 1.0.5.1 to 1.0.5.5. And I'll see if I can do this making less of a cock up than the first time I try to record it. Right, content added the Nürburgring Nordschleife layout. Note, part of the Nürburgring Ring DLC pack, which it will be available on Steam soon if you haven't already got it. So, as a standalone. General fixed reverse grid in championship mode, UI and HUD. Added vehicle selection filters, we'll have a look at them. Fixed track image anchors on lobby details page. Fixed left monitor bezel width right input, which presumably something to do with triples. Added credit screen to UI. I've got no idea where they're up the top there. I've just noticed. First time I've noticed. Blinders about me. Fixed various missing incorrect filters for cars and tracks. Physics and FFB, fixed coordinate conversion when reading CETA contact patch offset, which presumably will have an effect on your FFB, and potentially also the actual physics, because obviously if your contact patch isn't quite what you think it is, the sort of reaction of the tyre around where it can rotate, and by rotate I mean that way, not that way, would change how the tyre reacts possibly. Fixed curbs pulling inverse way on cars with steering arms are behind the steering axis, so if you're wondering why you're being pulled onto curbs instead of pushed off them, that's why. Fixed minor road noise configuration being partially unequally handled. I think it should be contribution. Interesting use of English. Unequally handled on front right wheel. I think that's just a typo and I misread the word because my brain was going, that can't be a correct word, so it's got an F where it should have a T, and you don't want F in T, do you? Fixed issues with mini FFB using new profile. Adjusted tyre treads for additional longitudinal slip in GT stroke stock car stroke prototype tyres, and adjusted load dampening to minimise hysteresis. I assume that means that there's a bit of a lag where how much load is applied to the tyre changes the actual amount of grip, because obviously if you're pushing down on it more, you're probably going to get more grip up to a point, but there should be a little bit of a delay because obviously it's got a squash, so I'm assuming they're just minimising the lag between when you start to press down and when it actually ends up making a difference on the other side. Adjusted tyre treads for additional longitudinal slip in rain race tyres. Corrected front tyre tread width in GT prototypes, 305mm and 315mm respectively, I'm guessing. Adjusted default diff settings and roll bar values for Porsches. Revised low rev band torque curves and suspension rates for GT cars. Adjusted Porsche Cayman suspension travel and helper spring deflection length, which should hopefully stop them acting like a pogo stick when you're driving a Cayman, which is a bit bouncy. Fixed error in the main driveline syntax, potentially improves a rear differential functionality. Okay, is it only the rear diff? So if you've got a centre diff and a front diff, yeah, okay. I thought it would have been common code, but you never know. Oop, scrolled too far. Corrected Porsche Cup engine power figures to latest specifications. Adjusted FFB max force and COG height. Reduced engine inertia in GT3/GT4 cars. Slightly increased engine inertia for Group A cars. Reduced engine inertia and spring rate range for Metal Morrow MRX, all variants. Bugger, scrolled too far again. Various weight and engine power adjustments for better bop across GT3, GT4 classes. Did I miss a line? No. Further revised suspension rates on all GT3/GT4 cars. Fixed Mercedes AMG GT3 camber range for front wheels. Not sure if that was too little or too much available. Minor adjustment to stock car 2020 cog height and aero. Reduced Copa Fusca FFB max force and raised static ride height by 1 centimetre. It's amazing how much a centimetre can make in the way of a change if you're talking about things like ride heights, because it changes centre of gravity, does all sorts of weird things. Reduced Formula Risa FFB max force. Apparently it was like a wrestling match to get anywhere near the end of the scale for that one. AI. Further improvements to AI lateral player avoidance and line selection when side by side with players. Improved AI player avoidance in situations where more than one player is present, multiplayer obviously. AI calibration pass for GT/stock prototypes. Adjusted AI lateral movement smoothing values to minimise aggressive weaving in some types of car. You don't want aggressive weaving, you need careful weaving, so you make a nice neat basket. Reduced aggression scalers for Tin Top Series. Audio. Porsche GT3R set tranny whine to cut off sound in neutral. There's always a joke about whining trannies. Fixed missing onboard sound for AI cars and in replays. Fixed McLaren 570S GT4 missing sound in chase view. Increased bottoming sound effect for GT3s and GT4s. You want a bottoming sounds, do you? I can supply them. Tracks, the Velocita rebuilt pit lane triggers and adjusted far corridors in pit lane at U-turn. Remove corridor overlap, possible source for pit lane DQ issue. Calibrated some brake marker spacing distance, dynamic stroke static road line markings. Minor performance pass. Well, the thing is, brake markers that are stuck beside a track, never use them as a brake marker if you can avoid it, because if somebody drives through them and they disappear, you suddenly go, oh, I can't brake, which is always a bit of a pain. So always look for alternates that are solidly connected to terra firma. Imola added a DRS zone triggers as per latest GP configuration. Added the drone animations to Velocita, Velopark and VIR. Fixed rain blockers at VIR. That might be for... Are there any bridges? There's a bridge, isn't there? Might be for garages. Adjusted Nürburgring GP TV cameras. Vehicles, McLaren 720S GT3, added 5 new liveries, fixed collision mesh bug, added cockpit vibrations, dirt stroke damage effects, plus dangling damaged parts. Ouch. McLaren 570S GT4 added dirt stroke damage effects, dangling damaged parts, plus new colliders, plus carbon material fix, plus carbon material UV mapping fix, plus mesh changes. Rear bumper stroke lights. Adjusted cockpit POV so it doesn't clip the driver model. Camaro GT4R corrected small. I'm guessing that was meant to be. Got the A and the M the wrong way around. Side window material. Fixed Porsche Cup 4.0 rear tyre dimensions. That wasn't really touching the ground properly. It looked really strange. So I'm assuming that fixed that. Added damage stroke dangling parts and dirt map for Fusca, all variants. And I'd scroll back up and I will just read the Start highlighted parts at the top here, just to make sure we get that. Scroll, 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 scroll. Important. Not only is it in all capitals, it's in bold, so it must be important. And it's got an exclamation mark. The latest physics modifications to GT3/GT4 cars require a setup reset to default in setup UI to take effect. No need to delete all your settings, just go into the setup screen and click reset to default. When choosing any of the new GT3/GT4 cars added in the version 1.0.5.0, other cars haven't had setup ranges changed, so shouldn't need a reset. Important, just like the last bit. As previously announced, with the release of the Nürburgring DLC pack, the Nürburgring layouts included in the previous update are now only available for owners of the DLC or the package that include it. Our next game update towards the end of the month will add layouts combining variants of the modern track with the Nordschleife. I don't know how many they're going to do, but there's several options. Because obviously there's like a short version of the Grand Prix track, partial version combined with, so you end up with the VLN and then you end up with this one. So there's about 4 different combined possible layouts, I think. Next year we also plan to include an historical version of the track to this pack with no additional charge to those who already own it. So let's have a look. Ooh, come here, chair, you've run away again. What do I do with my piece of paper? That was the one. I'll probably need to read that in a minute, otherwise I might talk bollocks. Nothing new there then. Right, tester today. Right, circuit selection. Right, got some new filters up the top here. Now, I don't know if any of my buttons on my wheel will actually do anything with those, and I'm not about to press 3 million buttons to find out, but it definitely works with the controller, and you can change this with right trigger, left trigger, one of the triggers. So you can grip by location, which is exactly how it was originally. So if you select any particular place, you get all the tracks at that one location. Group by country, fairly obvious that every country has a selection of tracks available. There are a few oddities, like England, which includes all the tracks in England, including most of the, if not all of the historic ones. And then there's also United Kingdom, which for some reason is just Donington. Don't ask, I don't know. But I'm assuming at some point they'll either change it so they're all under United Kingdom, or they're all under England, because at the moment they don't make a lot of sense. But I'm sure somebody will work it out one day. You can also group by grade. Now, I'm assuming these are just pure FIA grades. FIA grade 1 is Grand Prix circuits, and I'm very surprised at that one being an FIA grade 1, but there you go. Because you have to pay more to have it depend upon the grade you get on it. So these should all be full out Grand Prix circuits and not sort of anything particularly lesser than. Grade 2, those people looking at brands actually going, but they had a Grand Prix there. Yeah, they had one at Donington as well. It doesn't mean to say it's still currently FIA grade 1. As the rules change, grades get dropped potentially, and I don't know how often you have to regrade them, but grade 2 is effectively anything up to and including like world endurance. So you could have these ridiculously fast 230 mile an hour world endurance things with 1200 brake horsepower that are bloody near as fast as an F1 car, screaming around your track, and they're perfectly fine. But an F1 car, because it's got little sort of wheels that stick out the side, presumably that makes it, you have to be safer. I don't know, it's a bit weird. Grade 3 is the next step down, which I think is like anything up to like national level, if I remember rightly. They're all listed anyway, and grade 4 is, I think, just basically club type things. Not 100% sure on 3 and 4. You can, if you're really bored one day, and I was bored one day quite a while back when I looked this up myself, you can actually find out what all the various grades are by going onto the FIA website. Then there's ungraded stroke alternate, which is presumably, I mean, as far as I'm aware, the Fanatec Indie circuit is actually FIA graded. I'm just not sure what to. So it might be they couldn't actually find out. There are places that will list all the FIA gradings on any circuit you like. Historic, obviously, you can't grade them because they don't exist anymore. They probably had an FIA grading. Most of them will be Grand Prix circuits. Historic alternative, alternate, if you wish to be pedantic, just because I can't read, is all the other circuits that are associated with the historics. And then you've got karting, and there's probably a similar grading for whoever the world governing body of karting is, which might be the FIA, it might be somebody else. Similar thing with the cars. There is a sort of all-car list, and you can literally have every single car, and you'll wear your middle finger out on your mouse wheel trying to scroll up and down that lot. So better off to stick with this one. All is what it originally had, which is every single thing, and the order is different to what I remember. So I wonder if it changes depending on what you've done. So I think they're in the same, effectively the all order is the same as these in sort of groups, I think. So you've got all your Brazilian series, prototypes, GT and Touring, first person who shouts, but there's no GT5. That's because it's not in the GT class, it's elsewhere. Don't panic. They haven't forgotten, they just haven't put it there. Club, which is where GT5 is. Street, which will have a load more things. Historic Touring, which is all that lot. And then all your Formula cars, of which there are quite a few. And last but not least, karting. Then you go back to all. I think, yeah, it looks like they've actually just put them in effectively blocks in the same order they were and that. So there's, yeah, it makes reasonable sense. You either do it alphabetically or you do it in some sort of sensible, logical order. That's not logical enough as far as I'm concerned. Right, now, trying to think what else was mentioned in the notes that would actually make any sense to have a look at. Nothing that I can think of off the top of my head. So, we'll have a look round. The Nordschleife. Now, obviously, the first thing everybody's going to go is, how does it compare with X, Y, or Z? They're all got slight differences. Some have got more crap on the tarmacs, some have got more crap on the Armco, some have got really weird surroundings that maybe make it look like they've got slightly inaccurate road heights and things. I'm going to drive around in the what am I? Audio Academy Caterham, and I'm going to get up here and we're going to drive around and we're going to, oh, it's quite a lumpy pit lane. Now they did take a couple of iterations on this. They've smoothed a lot of the lumps and bumps out, so it's looks quite nice and neat and tidy, and feels quite nice and neat and tidy. There were a few places where they had sort of like they said the road surface. I assume they were talking about the visual road surface. Didn't quite have enough polygons in it, and it looked a bit sort of instead of being nice and smooth. So they've changed that around a bit. First impression on initial exit from the pit is, what a lot of lovely trees. Lots of bits of graffiti here and there on the Armcos. The arm codes they've done as they're flat with nice textures rather than being shaped, because I don't know if anybody's noticed, like Snetterton, they've got sort of shaped arm codes, so the arm code is actually made up of 3D instead of being flat, and it gets all these horrible moire patterns on it. There were one or two places where they were sort of tyres sticking through this like conveyor belt bit here. Hopefully they're going through or gone through and fixed a load of them. One of the first things I noticed when I drove around is it seems to have more elevation, or it gives the impression of more elevation, certainly from this particular view. I don't know whether it's because I don't normally drive from behind like this or what, but it just seems to be a lot more elevation changes. Nice selection of trees. You got they're all nice hickledy-pickledy, natural looking, not all in rows, and I think, oh, he says, try not to fall off the side of the track. And I just realised I should have done that so you can actually see better without all the crap. Yeah, the trees, they're all they're called billboard, so like all the other circuits, they've actually gone, rather than going for 3D trees, they've gone for billboard. I think that's a good move because it's they're a lot less, or they should be, a lot less difficult to actually render, because you have just literally one or two or three planes effectively, and they rotate to face the camera, which is why, as you'll spot as you're going around, you might spot the odd tree going like this as we go past it, which looks a little odd, and you see the ones on the left are actually doing it. You get to a certain point and it looks like the tree is rotating. You shouldn't notice that whilst you're going along at a fair rate of knots. You might have the odd one if you've got a really overhanging tree that'll look a bit like it suddenly goes, I'm going to part, like the parting of the waves as you go past. But it's not a massive issue. It's certainly nothing to worry about. And I think because they've gone with billboard trees, you can end up with a much greater variety. And it's actually the variety as much as anything that gives you, I mean, over there you got like different types of firs and conifers and things, and you're thinking, really nice selection, and the more you can sort of put some variance in there, the more natural it looks. Same as not sticking everything in a row, so you just go copy paste with lots of the same thing, but you get lots of different looking trees and shrubs and things. I mean, even the grass, it's got like little extra plants growing out of it, which I think is a great touch because it adds so much. Lovely view. Now, the other day I was looking and somebody posted something, and I can't remember where the hell it was, but if I do remember, I will see if I can remember to post a link to it. A video that had some photographs of like the modern circuit at certain locations and some from the 70s, was it? Might have been the 60s. But basically there was no Armco, the sort of round the edges there was sort of hedges, and there might be the odd fence, wooden fence maybe, or sort of a wooden fence with barbed wire, all a bit dodgy. And hopefully that's what Risa will be aiming at for their historic version, so it's much more open. There obviously is a problem with doing that, is if you have like a not too physically solid barrier around the outside, people will no doubt try to drive through it, and then it will turn out it will have to be a solid barrier, or you're going to have to put an invisible barrier sort of a few metres the other side of it to stop people just shoving off into the distance. But it was amazing, as much as anything, not the fact there was no barriers or anything, just how much less foliage there was and how short the trees were around the track. Because there were sort of places where on the modern circuit you couldn't see the wood for the trees. You couldn't see beyond the trees very much, but in the older photograph there was like nice open vista behind it, because the trees, A, there weren't so many of them, and B, they were a lot shorter. I mean, you look at the size of some of these trees 40, 50 years ago, they'd obviously been potentially a lot smaller and a lot fewer of them. So you end up with quite a different looking circuit. It was quite interesting, although you could see the road was obviously in exactly the same place, and even the curves might have been the same at some point. Although in a lot of cases there weren't much in the way of curves, it was just because of the surroundings, it looked like almost a different circuit. Obviously, if you drove it and you were thinking, sort of, I'm coming up to whatever corner, I am terrible with the names of these. I can never remember. People quote things. Luckily, it's got signs up there so you can read it. Now, if you notice, as we're going under the trees are all going, I'm going to get out of your way, I'm going to get out of your way. Again, like I said, it's because they are billboard, but nothing to worry about. I would rather have billboard trees that look good and rotate but give you really, really good performance than I would have lots of 3D trees that kill your performance and actually don't look as good in some cases. Again, nice hedging, and that's probably the sort of thing you'll end up with on a, like the classic example, being no arm code, might be a wooden fence maybe, or sort of one of these sort of with sort of posts every so often and rails, and then the other side of it you'll have a fence. So, but it'll be interesting to see A, what they actually go for, and B, how closely or how easy it is to actually find some reference material for the older circuit. Obviously a lot of the buildings will have been built since the last 40 years, so a lot of them will disappear. I mean, I can't remember when the new Grand Prix circuit was added actually, but I have to say it is looking extremely nice. Obviously you don't normally drive from this position personally. If you do, that's entirely up to you. But I have to say all the signage all appears to be sort of there or where you'd expect to see it. Sort of extra fences here and there, and sort of little catch fences, bits of gap through the side. Obviously secondary fences up there where you might get people hanging about, throwing things at the drivers or whatever. And again, lovely view, wonderful vista, and presumably it'll look even better when you haven't got all those trees in the way and you get even more view with the older circuit. This is one of the sort of things where you're going, I'm sure this is nowhere near as steep on other versions of the circuit. And you're sort of going, it's just very strange. I think we're coming down to the little hairpin down there, aren't we? This, I'm sure on most versions, just looks completely flat compared with this almost. Certainly this last bit drops quite a lot more than I think it does on other series. It might look completely different from sitting in a car, but from here it just looks, I don't know whether it's the FOV changing because of where we are, but certainly gives a massive impression of going downhill. By the way, the FFB, I can feel every little ripple in the tarmac. It's wonderful. Now, again, nicely done buildings down here. Speakers for loudspeakers. So the presumably socially distanced audience can hear properly. Well, that feels really nice around there. It doesn't feel like it's too lumpy. The Project Cars 2 version is a bit lumpy around here. All in all, I think anybody who buys this will be very happy with it. And talking about buying it, let's answer the simple question, how the hell do you get hold of it? Right, there are 3 ways well, there's more than 3. Obviously, some lovely person could buy it for you and gift it to you for Christmas. But don't look at me, because I'm not going to. You can buy the individual track pack, and as far as I'm aware, every track DLC they're going to do as an individual. So you can already buy the Hockenheim one, you can buy Silverstone, and at the moment Hockenheim's 50% off and Silverstone is 25% off, so if you want either of those, grab it. Although you can wait for Silverstone to be 50% off. When I looked earlier, there was not a version of the pack for this on the store yet, so I don't know how long it'll take. Hopefully not too long before it appears. Lovely trees up there. They look wonderful. Second option is you can buy the premium track pack. Now the premium track pack is going to have Hockenheim, Silverstone, Nürburgring, Spa, which is going to have the modern plus the 1972 and the 1988-ish, I think it was. Let me have a look, see if I wrote that down. Did I write that down? Did I write it down? 1970 and 1991 versions of Spa. So it'll have the ultra long version as well as the, which one was it? One with a big bus stop in it somewhere. There have been so many variants of like the bus stops before the sort of final or versions of the vinyl chicane effectively at Spa. I can't remember which one's which, and it can be very confusing jumping between various sims and going, I'm just going to have a go around Spa and oh my god, where's that corner come from? So yeah, I did that a few weeks back when I went on Race 07, was it? Went around Spa and got a bit of a shock when I came to the end of the course and went, hang on, it's that version. The premium pack will also contain one other, I think it was it one? Yeah, one other to be announced track pack. Not sure what track it'll be. I'm sure it'll be somewhere interesting, like all the tracks. So that's the second option, is the premium track pack. That's about 32 quid, but there's 25% off at the moment. And the final option, and by the way, the first track packs are sort of 8-9 quid each, so for individual ones, which is not bad considering what you're getting. I mean, talking about nine variants of Silverstone, so that's a quid each, or less than a quid each. I think it was 8 quid, not 9. The final option is the season pass, which is 2020-2021 season pass, and that is basically the 4 aforementioned track packs plus at least 2 others. So that's Hockenheim, Silverstone, Nürburgring, Spa, plus at least 2 others. At least. So not just 2, at least 2 others. Plus there will be other things which are Brazilian, what was it? Brazilian GP Legends, which is a bunch of cars as used by various legendary Brazilian drivers. So that'll be a load of stuff as driven by Ayrton, and all the other many, as there have been, great Brazilian drivers. Historical track pack, and that's tracks basically that are already in game but historical variants of them. So they'll be adding more historical variants. You might get, for example, a 1970s version of Snetterding, which would be quite an interesting one, because that's considerably longer circuit with a lot more straights on it. And then you might get an 80s version, which will have the original very fast Russell chicane, which I personally would like to see. Plus lots of other circuits that have had variants over the years. I mean, Brands has been altered a few times, sort of through the Dingle Dell area, yeah, although not huge changes. So it'll be interesting to see which particular ones they change a lot and which ones they don't change particularly, because they haven't changed a lot over the years. I mean, there's some series that literally have not changed at all over the years. Just trying to think where I was looking the other day and thought, my God, that's never actually changed. Salzburger Inn? Was it the Salzburger Inn? I think it was the Salzburger Inn. They were talking about it. Who was talking about it? Keith Ewan on the MotoGP coverage. Saying he had a bit of a prang. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Amazing little circuit, but you're thinking, God, I wouldn't want to ride a really quick bike around here. Be a bit dodgy. Street supercars, which will be cars that are street cars and super, I think. Racing USA, with no G in the racing, which is both cars and tracks. Obviously there's lots of really good tracks in the States, and they have made quite a few interesting cars over the years, Shelby Cobras, etc. Be interesting to see which tracks they choose. The obvious choices would be Kota, Laguna Seca, Road America, yay, Sebring. But again, it comes down to how easy is it to get hold of the damn things, because I know SMS wanted to get several American circuits, and basically it was just such a pain in the arse to get people to come down to a sensible price for them. There was a couple of 3 tracks that they actually started for Project Cars, American circuits, that never came to fruition because basically trying to negotiate with these people was like pulling bloody teeth. The ovals are even worse at the stage, because then they want you to take sort of extra sponsors and all sorts of weird shit, and you have to negotiate individually with each one. Really? So, bit of a pain. So that'll be cars and tracks. If I had to say which ones would I like to see, definitely Road America, probably Road Atlanta, Sebring maybe. It's a bit of a Marmite circuit. Some of it's fine, some of it's not, but obviously it has some fairly major races at it. Indianapolis maybe, if they're going to have some sort of fast Indy cars or some classic Indy cars. Maybe a few ovals. I know some people sort of think ovals, what's the point? Well, the point is they're actually quite interesting to drive. It's a different skill set, let's put it that way. I mean, somebody can drive on a normal circuit might absolutely fail dismally on an oval, because it's just such a different skill set to be able to drive on one, and you have to have a slightly different mindset about sticking your nose literally to the back bumper of another car for potentially tens of 20 minutes at a time, with concentration levels that you just can't get your head around at times. I don't know what just flashed over there, but something did. I see a castle on the hill. Do you think there's a man who lives in that high castle? Maybe. And last but not least, the thing that will be in the season pass is the Adrenaline, which is the off-road cars and tracks and extreme vehicles. So that'll be like monster trucks and maybe rally cars and these sort of like dirt buggies, something like that, which all could be very interesting. Have we got to the end of the circuit yet? There's miles of it, literally miles. But I have to say, apart from the fact that I've been waffling, hopefully you've been going, oh, that looks nice. The detail is quite nice. They seem to have got a really nicely detailed circuit. It's got everything you expect to see. It's got some great views. Can I just turn that way a bit again? Hey, nice sprawling valley. Everything appears to be in the right places. The curbs are quite curvy. Ouch. and they're not the sort of curbs you want to be attacking too much in places. Obviously there are some of the curbs around here you can run a wheel across. Some of them you don't want to go anywhere near with a barge pole, and those that you do, you might find yourself being pushed off quite nicely anyway. Not in a sort of violent way like I always find AC, for an example. When you hit a curb, in most of the cars that I've tried it, anyway, around the Nordschleife in AC, it feels like you're hitting sort of a bit of concrete on a bit of concrete, and the reaction is always a bit over solid. Now, I can't remember ever seeing those buildings, and again something just flashed over there, unless my eyesight's going again. This weird sort of arch thing over here, and all sorts of interesting structures. I'm assuming it's some sort of industrial estate, but normally you'd be sitting lower down, and even if they are there on other games on their versions, I can't remember ever seeing any of them, so maybe I'll have to do this in the R Factor 2 version of the track. Now obviously there's bits of road down there, because obviously there's a bit of road goes along here that then gets you to, presumably, the touristy bit where you can drive around the circuit paying however much it is, or take a taxi and have the shit scared out of you by people like Sabine. Now again, all nicely modelled over there, all looks good. Don't know if there will be a version that you can go from there and just have a tourist fahrten version and just leave it open and drive round and round and round. Might be, might not. Either way, it's nothing to stop you just having a drive around this version. Bit of a stutter there, I don't know what the hell that was. My drive light is flashing. Look, where are you going? Okay, more buildings over there. Oh, church over there as well. That looks a bit. Interesting what you see when you're driving around slowly, looking around, that you don't drive around and see normally because you're too far down. But, what do I think of it? I think it's all very nice, actually. All nicely textured, not too rough, not too smooth. Good road texture, as in feeling wise, as well as road texture as in visually. Everything appears to be where you would expect it to be. I'm going to sneeze in a minute. It's all the Grand Prix buildings over there. I'm not sure how many grid slots it's going to have. The usual thing with the Nordschleife, it is quite a long circuit, but it's also quite a narrow circuit, and it actually can be quite a pain to race on. So it's not necessarily as good a race circuit as it is crunchy gearbox, as it is just a driving circuit. I enjoy driving around it. I don't necessarily like racing around it. But that's it, and I have to say I am well impressed. I think they've done a great job. Obviously there's potential for even more polish at some point. Be interesting to see what it's like sort of at high speed in lots of different cars. I think I might, what are we up to, about 45 minutes again. I might shove a lap with an onboard from this plus the offboard as well, so if I do like a one lap race and try not to crash and make myself look like a complete twat, then do like the old thing in a corner job. So I'll give that a shot. So from me for now, stay safe, stay indoors, keep racing, keep away from other people, stop passing on nasty horrible diseases, And enjoy your racing, and I will see you soon. And like I said, you might see a lap from an onboard and offboard in the corner added to this, depending upon whether or not I think I can do it, and get ready for whatever race I'm meant to be doing something with later. So for now, see you later. Goodbye.